weekly block of Halloween horror over here at Blood and Black Run Podcast. All season long, September and October will be celebrating with quirky, funny horror parodies. Join us for your favorites, from satirical slashers to classic parodies and even some throwback spooks. I'm even told Abbott and Costello will be rising from the dead. Celebrate with us, Blood and Black Run Podcast, as we dive into HaHaHalloween.
Welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan, from ColdSploitation.com, and I'm joined with my co-host, Martin.
How's it going?
I think instead of the creepy laugh, we should be more like...
I can totally do that.
Do your like
Krusty
Sideshow
the Clown?
Bob one or something. Yeah,
Krusty the... Hey, kids! Yeah.
And for us, you know, as we're recording, we don't have the ambience of everything, but there will be like, you know, the sound effect Halloween music playing in the background. So just imagine that. Imagine that's happening for the listeners. That is happening. So
one viewer said that our spooky sound effects during the season is okay. Mildly annoying.
Just okay. Yeah, it's the one thing that sets us apart for the holiday seasons of especially the Halloween shows is the sound effects that then you're into the Halloween episodes of the show instead of just, you know, normal horror movie coverage. It's special Halloween edition. So yeah, we're back. It's, you know, realize it's only September. It's first week in September, but you know what? It's Halloween season around here. We like to, you know, basically try to fill all of September and October with our Halloween episodes.
It's going to be one of our longest because the way the schedule is just set up.
Yeah. It's a long, I think, yeah, I mean, and we've had other seasons where we've had more movies than we could actually fit in. So this one is interesting in that we have 9 weeks of movies to be able to do. So it's fun. I don't even know if there's anything else that's going to crop up in October because I haven't really been following the seasonal schedule of horror movies that are releasing in October.
That's what I'm looking for right now.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if anything is cropping up. But we have 9. Basically, we've got 9 flicks that we're going to be covering for our new Halloween season, which we're calling this year HaHaHalloween.
Oh, you know, the Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein
movie. That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You want to talk about HaHaHalloween? That was your idea, I think, right?
Yeah. Well, going 10 years in and our 9 years about into this whole making a big old block for the season. Oh, you know, listen, we're running out of material. You know, even though this, you know, style of film, you know, is abundant and shit, we're running out of material.
I would say you do run the risk of running out of Halloween material because we've done a couple of seasons of actually just featuring Halloween movies, and at a certain point, you do run out of content for Halloween movies, especially when you're doing, 7 to 8 episodes Halloween season. There's only so many Halloween movies that you can actually do. And we certainly have not hit the full scope of Halloween movies. There's lots more that we could do. There's like specials that we could do. There's lots of things that we could do. So I'm not saying that we've run out of ideas in that regard, but we do try to like sporadically pepper those in. So maybe next year we'll do another Halloween movie edition. But like you can't do it every year.
We've always been like, you know, like again, we did So Creepy It's Carpenter.
Yes.
You know, let's just doing all John Carpenter films, or, you know, craving some Cronenberg. You know, we just did some, you know.
Yeah. We try to stick to the main food groups of Halloween, right? You know, still make sure that they have spookiness factor, maybe a nostalgia factor, or something that makes you think about Halloween. I think in this iteration of the Halloween movies that we're covering for HaHaHalloween, The thought was that, like, you know, again, horror parodies have been something, well, we've covered a few on the show before, but there's something that crop up here and there that have been kind of, you know, routine throughout the years. And I think a lot of horror parodies do get released around the Halloween season. It's sort of like the best time for them because people are thinking about horror movies. And I don't know about anybody else, but during the Halloween season, I don't necessarily just watch horror movies because to me, I watch horror all the time, so it doesn't necessarily equate to Halloween. For me, I try to go a bit further, and I want something that actually like evokes the Halloween season or, you know, nostalgia factor for Halloween, something like that. And I feel like the horror parodies kind of evokes Halloween in a sense, because I think, like, if you remember back, I think Scary Movie was a big one around the time that, you know, the Halloween, when it released for Halloween. That kind of always has reminded me of Halloween to a certain extent. You know, and I think, again, like some of these parodical slasher films just kind of evoke the sense of Halloween because they are always peppered with like the ideas of it, but when, you know, they're also trying to do their own thing, like be a comedy as well. So I don't know. To me, I do get a little sense of Halloween from them, and I think we've tried to kind of encapsulate different kinds of horror parodies in the picks that we've done for the episodes that we plan on doing. We got a good mix, I believe. Some that you might not think about in terms of like when you think about horror parodies. You know, we got some that obviously are gonna spring to mind right away, but others that you might think like, oh yeah, I guess that is a horror parody, or even classic ones too. So I think we got a good agenda, and appreciate you coming up with the you know, the tagline and everything for this time.
Thank you. It's one of like the top 5 things I've done for the podcast.
That's right. Generally, I do that sort of thing, and you were kind enough to come up with the theme and the idea this year, so it was nice. So for the first episode in HaHaHalloween, we thought we'd start off a little bit, you know, again, because we're sort of, you know, almost nearly 60 days out from actual Halloween. We thought we'd start like a little soft focus on Halloween. As we get closer to the actual holiday, we'll get progressively more Halloween-y in terms of what movies we're covering. But for this episode, we kind of thought that it would be nice to segue in a little bit. So we just did Red Hot 90s Action Summer. You know, so segueing between the summer element into the fall and Halloween, it thought it might be nice to have sort of like a little, you know, kind of beachy, kind of summery, kind of spring breaky style thing going on. And what came to mind for me, and one movie that I had never seen before, but I've always seen it sort of recommended here and there, is Broken Lizard's Club Dread. And if you don't know anything about Broken Lizard, they are a comedy troupe, basically. You know, kind of think of it sort of like Second City sort of thing, or something like that. And they wrote a number of films, probably the most widely recognized one being Super Troopers. And in 2004, they released Club Dread, which was their version of a horror parody, a slasher parody, basically. And coming out about 4 years after Scary Movie really made a debut for horror parodies and kind of kicked things off, and unfortunately kicked off a number of really shitty parody sequels, or, you know, ideas about centered around doing other styles of film. You know, I think that Club Dread kind of hit in a really specific window of time, as we'll probably talk about as we get further into the episode. But Club Dread, had you ever seen it before? Heard of it?
I've heard of it. I've seen like bits and pieces of it back in the day, like on TV randomly, probably like Comedy Central.
Yeah, I bet you this is a Comedy Central style thing where they would edit it heavily and then
put it on TV. Yeah. Fun fact, I didn't know this. But they Broken Lizard, as a comedy troupe, they formed in '89 at Colgate, which is near us. So, you know,
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that they were such old dudes. No, just
but yeah, it's a movie I know of. It's not anything I've ever gone out of my way to see. I am, and I will preface it, I am a big Super Troopers fan. I think it's a great movie. Fun fact, saw that on rental with my mom and dad. Don't know why they rented it. Don't know why they had 12-year-old Martin watching it with them. Especially because my mom is not one at all for, gross out comedies. When we went to go see Knocked Up in theaters back in 2005, she was like, this is grotesque. They're saying testicles. And she thought the one fun part was like Leslie Mann's like talking to the kid. She's like, that's fun. But yeah, and I've seen Beer Fest, and that has also been on Comedy Central a billion times, so had decent hopes for this movie.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I knew about it is that it was a comedy slasher film, and it came fairly recommended. I've seen a lot of people say that they really enjoyed Club Dread. I think I've seen a few people saying like they wish there was a sequel to Club Dread, stuff like that. And so, again, I seen Super Troopers one time, thought it was okay. Didn't really see the fuss. And again, too, I think it kind of depends on when you see it, because I was probably like 30 years old when I saw it. I know a lot of, friends and classmates probably saw it when they were like 15 and probably had a really different, experience with something like that. There's the same idea with something like, which I haven't been back to since I saw it ages ago, is like something like Van Wilder.
How dare you?
Waiting.
How dare you?
Some of those movies.
Okay, listen, I'm going to stop you right there. Super Troopers is better than that shit.
Well, I'm just saying.
But Club Dread, Club Dread, right up in the Waiting and, Accepted and Van Wilder, line of mid-2000s National Lampoon's knockoff comedy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is it's kind of in that same wheelhouse, and I feel like, depending on when you saw it, you might have a far different experience of what you think about it, especially like nostalgia factor and things like that. So again, I don't really have any experience with Club Dread whatsoever, so we're kind of coming into it fresh. It's my first time seeing it, and we'll kind of take it from there and see what we thought of this horror parody, and then we'll talk about how good it is for Halloween and all that jazz when we come back. Because first, we do need to talk beer, and we need to talk about
pros.
Yeah, pros. So I think if you've been following our our Halloween episodes previously, or what we generally do on here, we try to do a good mix of Oktoberfest styles, Märtzens, and Fest beers.
God.
I know people always say that. And then also, themed beers as well. So we try to get kind of like the themed spooky beers on here.
Maybe the rare cider, that goes with
the rare cider. That's right. Maybe try to find that Angry Orchard Jason cider this year. I don't know. So we try to do a good mix. And actually, most years now, we've had it I want to say 2 or 3 years in a row now. We try to get Sierra Nevada's Oktoberfest on here because they have been, and I think this is, fairly new to them. They have been trying to do collaborations with different German breweries each year for their Oktoberfest. And I should say also, their style is specifically a Fest beer style. They've been doing collaborations with all kinds of German breweries, probably ones you've never even heard of. I think that's been the case for the most part when I've seen any of their new beers drop. And, they've always got a different collaboration. I'm like, never heard of that brewery before, but that's really cool. And I like that idea because Sierra Nevada is bringing awareness to some of these other German breweries that you would just never hear of, or there's no imports for. And it's just a cool little element to their Oktoberfest that we try to get every year. So this year, they've done a collaboration with Stortebeker. which is another, that's how you say it, man. That's how you say it. That's like nearly 100% perfect German pronunciation. I don't.
Brahmenfaktor.
There's no improvement on pronouncing that. And again, this is another brewery that I've really never heard of, Stortebeker. Have you ever heard of it before?
Nah, no. And in fact, trying to look up stuff on like the old Google isn't really turning much up outside of their collab with
Sierra Nevada, right?
So
kind of put them on the map a little.
Yeah.
And again, that's the really cool thing. Sierra Nevada is kind of using their name and reach to kind of get these different breweries out there. So I really love when they come out with this collaboration. I kind of wish they would do others. That would be really cool. Think about them doing like a Black Forest style beer with a collaboration or something like that.
There's not enough hops for that.
I know. It's just I would be interested in seeing them do something else like that.
I would too. I mean, like, that's one of the sad things about Saranac. It's one of their best beers, and now it's relegated to every 3 years. Like, hey guys, remember the Black Forest for putting that out? Isn't it good?
I know. One of the problems that I have with the collaborations, though, is that I find it really hard to remember back to last year and be like, because I have so many Oktoberfests throughout the season. I find it really hard to remember back and be like, yes, this one is 25% better than last year's. I really, I am not a good enough tester and taster to be able to do that. What I will say is I think this fest beer is really solid. Again, like pretty much every Sierra Nevada Oktoberfest that I've had, it's very crisp. It's got a nice bready character to it, but it's not overpowering to kind of push it into that super malty, biscuity Märzen style. This is nice and refreshing, light lager style. Got a nice, good character to it. I think the hops are pretty pronounced in it as well. Nice, solid, light mouthfeel to it. Very sessionable, very drinkable. And in fact, I've been sessioning them pretty much since probably mid-August, because this is my second 12-pack of this collaboration. And not only that, but we've also definitely talked about this. I do love the cans. The cans are awesome. Black and orange German Oktoberfest style flag represented. I love it. I love the cans. Perfect for Halloween too, because the black and orange. So everything about the cans I love. Beer's great too. Another solid collaboration. Really no notes for me. I think it's a really great fest beer style. How about you?
Like it a lot. It's another win from Sierra Nevada. It's really cool that a brewery that's basically known for turning out nothing but high-powered IPAs, takes the time when Oktoberfest comes around to pair up with a German brewery and, do a fest beer. Like I said, not familiar with the brewery this time around. But that's fine. It's like really cool too. Excuse me. For all we know, maybe they are big in Germany. You don't know. But but it's it's very it's drinkable. Got a nice light breadiness to it. Very smooth. Crisp. It's 6%. It doesn't feel like it. It's kind of high and heady for the style. Mm-hmm. But it's very good and is another one of the put into the pantheon of great fest beers to have during the season. Tastes like fall in a glass. So yeah, definitely try it. I can't say enough. Like, I don't think as you said, can I remember every year now, like the past 5 years that they've been doing this or whatever? No. But at the same time, when it's, when they do it, it's great. And, yeah, try it. It's going to be available nationally, so.
Yep. Solid fest beer style, especially too, because, not everyone's making the fest beer style. It's nice to kind of portion those out between your Märzens and your fest beers. I do appreciate that too. So, and especially considering how expensive getting an imported fest beer style can be at this time, it's well worth it to try Sierra Nevadas and get in there.
Which is sad.
Would you like to see Sierra Nevada tackling American style? Because I don't know that they ever have. I think they've always done the fest beer.
Yeah, no, I would. I think, again, like, it's, even, like, breweries that make, like, big IPAs like they do, I think it's, you gotta show that you're more than just an IPA artist. You gotta, I think it's really telling if a brewer and, master brewer and a brewery, if they can do, like, the heavy NIPA, the double NIPA, but also, a Czech Pilsner, too. Because they're so different. So, like, again, I think they could do a damn good style of it, so. And I would, like I said, even if it's not good, I want them to try it. Because, again, like, be adventurous in your sense of, like, what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as much as we love NIPAs, goddamn, like, you can only reinvent the wheel and re-engineer a hop so many times before it's like, okay, that one's red grapefruit. This one's, Persian sweet tart grapefruit. And so yeah, I would definitely welcome it. And they're big enough, too, to kind of just do it and see what the fuck happens.
Sure.
They if it doesn't sell, well, they'll try again next year or, throw it into the dustbin of time, so.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so Club Dread.
Hold on. Broken Lizards.
Sorry. Yes, I gotta stop doing that. Make sure to give the comedy troupe their due here. Because, yes, you actually are correct in the fact that, like, so, with John Carpenter's things, he was primarily the one working on it, writing it, making, music for it and doing all that stuff. Here, it is important to attribute all of it to Broken Lizard because I think pretty much everybody in the comedy troupe was included as a writer on this film. So it makes sense to actually call it Broken Lizard's Club Dread to kind of give everybody in the writing room the credit that went into the script, because I do think that was kind of part of the idea. Is probably they my guess is that these guys sat down, probably drank a few beers, maybe smoked some weed, and then worked on the script just shouting things out. Is my from watching this film is kind of my understanding of how Club Dread might have been written, which can be a good and bad thing. So let's talk about that. So Club Dread, again, 2004, I commented on this previously, but about 4 years after Scary Movie released, again, at this time, Club Dread was kind of in the middle of when all of those satirical films started coming out. So you had, Scary Movie in 2000 really set things in motion. And then more towards the end of the 2000s, 2007, 2008 area, Scary Movie had really proliferated and they were churning out sequels left and right to it. And not only that, but they were greenlighting all kinds of things like Epic Movie, which I subjected you to in movie theaters.
God,
there was Disaster Movie,
superhero movie.
Yeah, superhero movie. All of these movies where they were basically trying to follow the Scary Movie format, but for different types of films. None of them being good ideas. And I think Club Dread, we have to kind of situate in between that area. It wasn't necessarily the first one to do this slasher style of the 2000s, but it wasn't also the last one to do it. It was kind of somewhere in the middle. And again, too, it was just a few years out from the Broken Lizard's Super Troopers, which did go on to have some pretty critical, well, maybe not critical, popular success with fans. And so I think that was sort of the impetus between Super Troopers and then Club Dread in 2004. Now, Club Dread is a pretty traditional slasher-esque parody. I would say that it runs a lot closer to something like a traditional slasher than Scary Movie, which kind of satirized a lot of different elements of horror movies. This one is situated on one particular element, which would be the slasher film, and it kind of just runs with that throughout its runtime. I don't think it really tries to adopt any other type of horror movie. And slasher is really its element that it's trying to do. From that perspective, what do you think about trying to satirize the slasher in 2004? Is it, thinking back at the time, is that a unique idea, or has it already been done way too much by the time Club Dread released?
Well, unfortunately, Scream beat them to the punch.
True. So you're counting Scream as sort of like a horror parody or satire in itself.
It's not a parody. It is a satire, though. It is definitely, again, it's one of the original, like, meta-contextual films out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, we've already had kind of that kind of, and there's been a bunch, like, a different, like,
You're saying this discussion has already been had about the metatextual elements of slasher.
Well, it's not that, it's that, because, again, this is a decade later, so you'd think after, especially with, like, during that time period, Saw, and, like, a lot of those remakes that were coming out at the time, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and such, you'd have something, like, more to kind of chew on that's newer for satire. And I don't really think this film works well as a satire or as a parody. I think it's very disjointed and disinterested in, like, even exploring it. It's just a bunch of... And again, this is coming from somebody who loves Super Troopers and Beer Fest. And I'm not saying all juvenile dick joke humor is bad. The whole setup is nonsense, and then the whole comedic factor for this film is very boring and stupid. It doesn't really fit what the hell's going on.
So you're saying then that so do you think that Club Dread takes itself maybe a little bit too seriously as a slasher film?
No, but it's also, like, just filled with such stupid shit. It's, like, not even, like it's the ideas in this film are the ideas of people who got too stoned and thought something that was funny when they were stoned was really funny. Like having... Yeah, like having, Jay Chandakishar, I'm sorry if I butchered his last name, is like, oh, you're gonna be this Rastafarian English guy, like, who plays tennis. Stupid. Like, it's not funny. That whole shtick and he's a funny guy. That whole shtick and bit isn't fucking funny at all. It's stupid. And just, like, all the characters, and there's, like, the only standout is fucking Bill Paxton as, $7 Jimmy Buffett,
So I definitely get what you're saying. I think, some of the ideas in Club Dread do feel like they were, and that's kind of why I said, with the script writing, kind of just thrown out there, right? Like literally in the script writing process, I feel like they were just all sitting down, throwing out ideas, and that was an idea. Have Jay Chandrasekhar as a Rastafarian dude, and that kind of proliferated through the script. And I definitely agree with you. Like, I feel like comedy in some ways there's a risk involved in comedy. It was just like, sometimes the writers thought it was a really funny idea, but it didn't really translate well when it actually hit film. Sometimes a risky idea can be really funny, and it just pays off. And I think, like, there's always that give and take on what will be the payoff for an audience.
I think the ideas here are way too much in the you're at an improv, and, like, what are we gonna improv?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it just doesn't work.
Do you think that Club Dread is heavily improv?
You don't think so? It doesn't really give the vibes of it.
I didn't really think so either.
But I mean, again, like the ideas for characters and stuff. It's like you'd be at an improv show and it's like, Greg Proops, what?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
What am I gonna be? You're gonna be a Rastafarian. Oh, okay.
That's a random idea.
What about you? I'm a Swedish misogynist, and when I touch you, you blow your load. Oh, isn't that hilarious? Aren't we having fun?
No, I definitely see what you're saying. It almost feels like an SNL skit that has been going on way too long. And I'm not gonna lie, I agree with you 100% that Club Dread, I think, especially at an hour and 44 minutes, is a very long horror parody that does suffer from the fact that it feels like it was a 15-minute sketch idea that ran far longer than it really should. And I think, like, I definitely understand, like, some of the ideas behind this, because when you think, you kind of got to think back too. This is a movie of its time for sure.
Oh yeah,
2000s era, like this time frame. This movie definitely has all of those elements that a 2000s era slasher would have, and I would say that those elements have not aged well. We did episodes on the 90s slasher films. We haven't really done a huge number of 00s slashers, but we've covered a few. And when you think back on some of those slashers, like, there are elements to them that really have not aged well. And at least in my opinion, they all have a very specific type of vibe, and that vibe does not necessarily equate to like contemporary elements of film
or fun.
Yeah, I mean, they all had a very like similar style to them. There was the spring break sort of aesthetic, which when you think about slasher films, I think the 2000s kind of took it to its extreme, and Club Dread is no different, where it tries to imagine sort of like a MTV spring break from the 2000s, where they basically are getting all these spring breakers together in this club, and then basically saying like, this is sort of like a swinging sex club. Everybody could do this. You could do drugs. We've got a dude who's just like shelling out ecstasy here and there. And it's sort of got that spring break vibe to it, which is not super different from some of the slasher films of the 00s. I'm thinking it's something like Hatchet, which literally has New Orleans spring break at the beginning of the film. Other films of that time would have like lots of like nudity or elements to that regard. It's not super different, and when you kind of think back on it, it's not really reminiscent of a slasher film whatsoever. Slasher films often, especially from the 70s and 80s, were known for the sexual content of them, right? Like the nudity, the proliferation of sex, especially either underage or like premarital sex, and that being an impetus for the killing itself, like sex equals death in that regard. But at the same time, they weren't like sex-crazed, hormone-driven, spring breakers like films like Club Dread like to showcase. Nor were they extremely drug-addled either. There might have been some weed here and there, but films from the 2000s, especially Club Dread, they treat weed and getting high like it's some edgy, on the crazy illegal side. And it's funny to watch now, and it's like, my 5-year-old can probably go get a prescription for some weed and treat ADHD. It's not.
I was gonna say, like, even more so, like, they're like just booze crews, like they're just totally obliterated on booze the entire time, which has fallen out of favor in modern times.
And I think that's part of like what you're saying too, is falling out of favor. When you watch some of these movies, I do think that there is a very, even in the scope of like 20 years, things have changed significantly, where it kind of seems almost juvenile now, where like they're talking about how much they're smoking weed, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I take an edible before work. Or
how much pussy they're getting. Like,
yeah.
Like, everyone's just fucking around here, and it's like, this is all really weird, and,
Yeah.
And it's not helped either by the mid-2000s wardrobe. No one looks hot wearing, like, anything from the mid-2000s.
Yeah, the tube top and bikini combo and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not saying that I think Club Dread is exceptionally juvenile or like we're, arbiters of comedy in that regard. Like, whoa, that was a little bit too offensive. I don't think Club Dread is really offensive at all, to be honest with you. Maybe a couple of, somewhat like racist jokes or things like that. But other than that, they're not even that bad. Like the same thing, like the homophobic jokes. They're not even like. Actually, I think the homophobic jokes are more at the expense of like the dudes who you would think of being like homophobic.
Yeah, but I mean, again, at the same, like I said, at the same time though, the whole like, when they're hugging, they're like, it's a little too gay. Like, it's not. It's it's nothing really. But it's not,
Yeah, I mean, I think
it's not super funny, but again, if you are living in the times like a millennial or Gen X, don't be gay, So, I mean, like the film's not offensive. I'm not going to sit here and say, like, this film is, like, it's this big anti-woke piece of shit. Like, it's none of that. It's just a piece of its time. It's like watching Harold and Kumar now.
Sure.
If you were to watch it with blind eye, virgin eyes and ears, you'd be like, "Well, that's something." But if you were to watch it in 2004 or 5 when it came out, depending on like how that humor hits you, that's gonna be the determination factor. I am well aware of, like, again, out of all, like, as you said, like, out of all the types of films and genres, comedy's the one that's the most malleable and doesn't stand the test of time, because a lot of it's very within the time. So, I've accepted that films that I think are hilarious aren't going to be hilarious to other people. Like something like Blazing Saddles. I imagine a lot of people would be, greatly offended by that film. Hilarious, though. So, I mean... And this is this is definitely one of those films. It's totally of its time, style, mid-2000s humor. I don't think it works overall though, because again, I think they're too all over the place in their ideas and what they're doing.
And yeah, and I was gonna say, I do think, unfortunately for Club Dread, that while the humor isn't like offensive or anything, it's just not that funny. To me, it doesn't always work, and I feel like, again, that could be partially because of its time, partially for things that we've already we've seen in the meantime. But I don't really find the film that funny, and that's kind of my problem with Super Troopers as well, is that I never really found it all that funny. Yeah. And with the problem with Super Troopers is if you don't find it funny, that's like the extent of the movie. At least with Club Dread, you do have a slasher element to it that will hopefully add a little bit more excitement and something to watch for besides the humor, because at least there they're kind of splitting the two focuses a little bit. So I think, like, from that perspective, Club Dread works a little bit better. And I will say, I agree with you. I think Bill Paxton is definitely the highlight here, because he just is... Whenever he's on screen, you get this, like, doesn't give a shit attitude that he's great, really leaning into that, Jimmy Buffett-esque role. I love that they they basically rewrote Jimmy Buffett songs and had, Bill Paxton sing it and record it, and, basically remake a bunch of Jimmy Buffett songs with nonsense lyrics. I think that's probably... Go ahead.
I was saying, again, if you didn't get the joke, that one part where the chick's drunk and she's like, "Sing Margaritaville," and he's like, "That wasn't me. You're thinking of Pina Colada, whatever the hell."
Pina Colada Bird.
And she's like, "No, sing Margaritaville."
Yeah. And again, I think, that's sort of like, that's again another example of where they lean into the joke maybe a little bit too hard, bring it to a place that it doesn't necessarily need to be brought. Is like when, we get the joke, we get the gist of it, right? We understand that he's Jimmy Buffet-lite. We don't need to be beaten over the head with the fact that he's Jimmy Buffett. But,
so with that being said, with a couple of Coconut Petevilles, what's Coconut Pete serving up at his low rent TGIF Fridays knockoff, like a Margaritaville?
Yeah, I mean, he's serving up some sort of pina colada mixture with the coconut. He's like, what? Because there's that whole scene where Bill Paxton's like, what do I put in this drink? And they're like, I don't know. What do you put in there, Coconut Pete? He's like, it's in my name. Yeah, it's Coke. And then chucks the coconut. Again, I love that. I think that Bill Paxton does a great job leading into the role and just like having fun. This was probably a vacation for him, to be honest with you. They probably just said, Bill, we somehow secured funding for this movie.
Well, it's the same thing with like Brian Cox and Super Troopers. It's
it's
like thespian just in it for the game.
Exactly, and the trip too, right? Like it seems like he's just leaning in, having fun, and I love that about it because I think that's like the most charming part of Club Dread. And yeah, I would say it's probably some sort of pina colada coconut type drink. They probably can't call it pina colada because of rights reasons or something like that, so they call it Coconut Pete's penis colada. I do love too. There's this whole story, like, because Club Dread definitely does recognize its slasher formula, and it leans into that quite a bit. So you have the whole opening sequence, which has the initial kill sequence, and then everybody coming, kind of setting up the idea of like, here's your cast of characters that you kind of dislike. There's a story that's told on the beach, which kind of sets the tone for the mythology of the slasher, kind of straight out of classic slasher films. And they talk about this guy, Machete Pete, I think his name is. Is that what?
Machete Phil, I think.
Machete Phil, and how he accidentally cuts his dick off, a la like a sleepaway camp sort of thing. And I love that they name him Machete Phil, but his name is like Phil Coletti. It's like Machete Coletti is like so much better. I don't understand why they didn't go with the rhyme there. But again, writer's board. I don't know. But I do like the fact that the film leans into the slasher tropes. It definitely, they do know to some extent, and they do try to force in some references to slashers. Like I said, Sleepaway Camp would probably be a lesser known slasher film that they've kind of gotten in here, especially with the two guys pulled their pants down and they've tucked their penis in between their legs. Very similar to Sleepaway Camp, with the idea of like missing genitalia and genitalia that you don't expect to be there. I also love how they have that Friday the 13th reference in there, where the killer just won't die at the end and jumps out of the water and kind of tries to take her under. It's straight out of like the ending of Friday the 13th. It's a nice inclusion. So I think like the ideas there to reference slasher films from the past. I don't know that it does a great job of the slasher element though. What do you think about the whole setup of the slasher?
Pedantic and boring. It's the kills are very by the number, not really that entertaining or eye popping. And the overall idea, like to how they get to the killer, ends up being so roundabout and stupid. Which I understand is kind of the point. Yeah, but I mean, there's no real fun in like trying to figure out like who's the killer, why are they doing it. So I mean, wasn't the slasher aspect. I didn't find to be entertaining really at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the problem is that the film's kind of joke about the killings is that they're predicated on something stupid. So that's the idea behind the joke. But then it ultimately ends up being like not really worth it for the audience to engage with the actual killings and to try to figure out who the slasher is. I think that ends up hurting the movie a little bit because there's not at least a good wrap up. Like when you think about the best parodies or sort of like horror slasher films that are metacritical of themselves, there is always, at least a kind of a good reason for the slasher, even though it might not take itself extremely seriously. I feel like Club Dread kind of misses out on that. It makes a joke about it, and then it doesn't really force the viewer to engage in any of the characters.
Not only that though too. Like the joke is kind of funny. Like the whole he wouldn't give me any weed, and it's like, and that's really a dumbass reason to have this whole adventure set afoot. But it's kind of a funny idea. But the fact that he's like, wait, no, it's because of the whole Pete was selling the island and to that idiot. And I didn't like it. Like when they go from like the stupid idea to the tried and true by the lines, by the numbers, idea, it ruins the joke. And it's not like it kills it, and it's not like, okay, cool. Like, would you have been able to guess that throughout the film? No. It's
right.
That's picked up on twice in the movie. So it's just really stupid and as a joke and doesn't work at all, and as satire doesn't work at all either.
Yeah. I think the idea, like you said, that the film doesn't offer up even the element of a motive until very late in the film. There's really no opportunity to have a guess. It's all kind of to make a joke, to make the point of the joke. And I think that part of the problem with Club Dread too is that it relies too much on trying to make a joke that maybe would have been funny in a very small part of the movie, but to extend it for an hour and 40 minutes is definitely painful at times. I think Club Dread would have just been a much better movie if it had been 30 minutes long, right? Because this feels like a movie that just got completely out of control. There was probably just, again, the idea was what if there was a vacation sequence? This is kind of the same idea between the new Happy Madison movies where Adam Sandler basically has Netflix fund his vacations, where they basically just say hey, what if we shot in Cabo, right? And Netflix is yeah, what's the idea behind it? It's we'll figure it out when we get there, right? And I'd like to bring Kevin James as well. The whole idea behind the new Adam Sandler movies for Netflix, and more power to him. He's really taking advantage of that Netflix money. But the same idea kind of stems from Club Dread. Is we'll take a vacation, we'll do a spring breaky type thing, and we'll have a lot of fun. But we don't really have a good plot line, and we're just gonna wing it for an hour and 40 minutes. It's just way too long. The jokes are just extend too long. Like you said, I don't think that the kills are really anything to write home about either, which is unfortunate because that's probably where Club Dread could have shined a little bit better, is to actually have some unique or authentic kills, maybe practical kills. But most of the time it's just a machete slash to the chest, machete slash. It's kind of boring. It just ends up being not really that interesting to watch, and peppered with some milk toast comedy. I don't know that it ends up working very well.
I would say that's a great word, kind of, to describe this film as milquetoast.
And I definitely, I definitely got the feeling towards the end of the movie. I was very fatigued by the end, especially, the joke is kind of like, oh, the killer just won't die. Like, he's just so motivated. He's just, he just will not quit. And that's kind of like, it's not even a joke anymore, really. Maybe in 2004, that was a little bit of a joke of like, the killer won't quit. But now that's just like a thing. Like, if you look back at our episode on I Know What You Did Last Summer from, the recent remake or requel or whatever you want to call it. Like, that's just a thing in that movie. The killer just won't die. They just won't stop. Just like, give up the ghost already. Just quit it. Like at a certain point, I think audiences are ready to just throw in the towel and be like, okay, all right, just stop. This is going on too long. I think Club Dread reaches that point. I did not. At the end, the conclusion was just too foregone. Took way too long. I don't know. It fell flat for me, and I didn't really appreciate that it just kept going on and on and on without much payoff to it. I think the only thing that I found kind of interesting was once they get into the boat and they're kind of like wrapping the rope around the guy and kind of pulling him into the dock. I thought that was kind of cool. It had a like nice practicality to it. A nice visible gore to it. I thought that was kind of neat. But other than that, I was kind of done with the film just kind of reiterating its theme over and over again. And not only that, I think we talked about this a little bit, but like the slasher element to it, the whole idea behind Pete, Coconut Pete giving away the island to his nephew, and this dude taking offense to that, the killer taking offense, and killing all the other counselors. It doesn't even make any sense, like when you really stop and think about the whole setup. So I think, again, that to me really is kind of off-putting in terms of, I wish the film had maybe taken itself a little bit serious in terms of like how it represented the slasher elements, because I think that could have at least alleviated some of the comedy elements that just didn't work for it. But yeah, I think that's it. That's all I got for Club Train. Anything else you want to discuss?
Titties.
There are a lot of them. The film has.
What do you think? What do you think of the titties?
Well, we got Jordan Ladd in here as Penelope or Penelope, and I think that's she's pretty good in here. She would actually star in the Cabin Fever, the Eli Roth film. And I think she's pretty good here. I think that the film
Hidden Bazoombas.
Yeah. I think the film leans into the 2000s era titty drops.
Way too much. In fact, and I would say into a point where it's not even like, it's like, okay.
It's like a Girls Gone Wild sort of.
Yeah, like, it's not even like really parody. It's like, and I got poor Brittany Daniel. I can't see her without being Brandy and Joe Dirt. That's like just going to be forever ingrained in my skull. True. No matter what role she's playing. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, I think this is another just an example of the jokes just running along too long. And even that can be translated to nudity too. Like at a certain point, the nudity just kind of like blends into the background and you're like, okay, there's another topless woman or whatever. Which is saying something, surprising. The only running gag that I think I really like, again, it boils down to Bill Paxton. I like the idea of Coconut Pete. I think it works pretty well. I love the songs. I love leaning into like the fact that he does not remember writing that song about the stone crab. I think those are the only times where Club Dread really works, and God bless Bill Paxton. Lost him too soon, but I love that he's in this and kind of in on the joke. And I've also read that Jimmy Buffett was also in on the joke, that they did show him the movie, and he loved the idea of a low-rent Jimmy Buffett character in the movie, and apparently also played a few of the songs in his concerts. So
all I can think of anytime I think of Jimmy Buffett is a South Park episode where they have Kyle and Cartman have AIDS. And they're like, we couldn't get Elton John to play your AIDS benefit concert, so we got Jimmy Buffett. And Cartman's like, oh, motherfucker. And he comes out and he's like, AIDS burger in paradise. So nice, I play it twice. But, like, hilarious. Because the end of that episode's hilarious. Because you find out the cure to AIDS with Magic Johnson is just inject all your money. And they got, at the very end of the episode, after they found the cure to AIDS is just inject all your money into some asshole white guy in a Land Rover pulls up into some African country. He's like, hey, we found the cure to AIDS. All you have to do is inject all your money into you. Woo! And drives away. Oh, God. Hilarious. What?
A little bit funnier than Club Dread. Is that what you're saying?
So much funnier.
All right. So I guess you got to give. Well, actually, no. Before we give it a rating, for a Halloween film, how would you, what would you put Club Dread? Is it a movie you should watch for Halloween? Is it something that you should skip?
No, skip it. It's like Poor Man's Dead Island.
Mm-hmm.
Which I still haven't played 10 years, 12, 15 years later. It's just there. I can't recommend it.
It doesn't have a Halloween aesthetic that would make you want to.
No, and it's not funny, and it's not good as a satire, and it's not good as a slasher either, so it's all muddled.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I don't really think it's good for Halloween. It's not really... none of the aesthetic sets it for Halloween. There's nothing here, that would make you nostalgic for Halloween. No, it's not that great for Halloween. We include it here only because it is a horror parody and we have not done it. So, but yeah, I would not recommend it for like a Halloween watch or anything like that. All right, so let's rate the film on a scale of 0 to 10 pleasure points where it's going to get messy, which it was probably the only line I found quite funny was when he was holding the killer's pleasure point and having him orgasm. He says, you want to get out of here. It's going to get messy.
That just sounds awful.
I thought that was pretty funny. But...
just being held into position.
Yeah. That was like my one scene where I was like, oh, okay, that was pretty funny. What would you give Club Dread?
A 4.5 out of 10. I was incredibly bored by this film. I thought it was a terribly boring film. And I just wasn't engaged at all. I didn't think it was funny. I didn't think it hit the mark at all when it came to the satire, the humor, and what the hell was going on. There's some fun ideas here, like, Z-level Jimmy Buffett played by Bill Paxton. But the overall ideas and story here are very minimal and not really anything worth giving a shit about. It's just bland. It's just a very pedantic and boring film. And that's the worst thing that you can say about a movie, is that it's just there and that it's boring, because there's nothing here that I would say you should like outside of Bill Paxton to go and watch this film. Stay away from it. It's definitely a very poor mid-2000s stoner comedy. 4.5.
Yeah, I would give it like a 5.5. I mean, I found it moderately enjoyable. I think that has a minor element of comedy that works, but and again too, I feel like I was able to kind of set it into this 2000s era that maybe put me into a mindset to enjoy it just a little bit more. But I do think that it's really not that funny of a movie, and the slasher parody elements to it are really not that smart or intelligent, especially considering what had already come before it in terms of like actual horror movies that were metacritical of slasher films. The best part of the movie by far is Bill Paxton. His character and just how he leans into the role is probably part of the best. I think too the fact that the slasher, the actual killer, does not really have an iconic look to him hurts this film. There's no real element of suspense generated because he's kind of a figureless killer. Overall, I think this movie is okay. It's definitely not that funny and not that spooky, and it kind of fails at both things that it sets out to do, but it's moderately entertaining. I would probably just recommend it if somebody wants to get high or drunk and just watch a movie. But in terms of like actually sitting down and trying to enjoy this movie like solo or just individually watching the movie, it's a really tough recommend. I wouldn't. And it's definitely not a great movie to watch for Halloween. That's for sure. I guess I would, I'm 0 for 2 on Broken Lizard movies. I don't really find Super Troopers that funny either. So, I don't know. I guess take that with a grain of salt if you do find Broken Lizard funny, but it's not for me. And again, I don't really find weed stuff funny either because I don't really find it that edgy.
It definitely doesn't, as I say, it definitely doesn't work today. Like, it's just...
it kind of, like, loses its luster. I mean, I've even felt that way for quite a while. I was like, okay, you smoke weed. Like, cool. Like, but, like, it's just not that funny. I don't know. I mean, it's just, like, it doesn't have the appeal. I guess people who smoke weed are probably, or at least back in the day, they were probably like...
It's like a Gen X thing.
Yeah.
Like, where it's like... It's still like, oh, this is taboo.
Yeah, we're so out there. I don't know. It's just not for me. It's never been for me. This is another reason why, like, that show Broad City never resonated with me. It's like half their jokes are just smoking weed. It's like, it's not funny. It's just not okay. I don't care what you do. You smoke weed during the day, great. I don't care. It's just not. It's not funny. It's an activity that you like to do. It's like saying I go bowling on the weekends. Like, it's not funny. It's not funny. But anyway. So thanks for listening to our drivel on Club Dread. We tried. we tried. We really did. But again, I'm taking revenge on those people that I saw online who were saying like, I love Club Dread. Kind of
don't get it.
Them. Don't kind of pissed at them. Why? The recommendation just wasn't there. But, it's a movie that I've always like kind of seen on the radar and have been interested in trying out. So that's one of the good things about the podcast is that it allows us to choose movies that we might not necessarily otherwise just stumble upon or pick for ourselves to watch. So at least it was an experience. All right, so Halloween season continues. We're gonna keep going with hopefully better horror parodies. As we get further into the season, we will add some horror, like satirical films that are a little bit situated around Halloween. So it's gonna be a fun time. Club Dread accepted. But yeah, I'm excited for the rest of the movies that we've got on the agenda. We've got a large list of varying films. It's always fun. All right, so thanks for listening to our episode. Hope you enjoyed first episode in HaHaHalloween. You should subscribe, leave us a nice review on any podcast app you can think of. We're on Apple Podcasts or home base at Spotify. Whatever you use, we're on it. It always helps us out. We are on Facebook and Blue Sky. Just search for us on there, Blood and Black Rum Podcast. And we have an email address at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com where you can write to us. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. If you love the intro that I created, appreciate any feedback that comes our way. And you can donate to us on our Patreon page or on our Spotify page. Anything you donate goes back towards beer. And of course, we don't have any ads on here, so We don't really get paid for this stuff, so appreciate that. After 330 episodes, we're still trucking away for free. So appreciate anything you can give our way. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed. Hopefully no slashers are headed your way. And hope you enjoy your Halloween holiday season. And until next time.
Take care.